The Isle of Armor expansion for Pokemon Sword and Shield has just been released, and even though it's just a DLC expansion, it operates much in the same way that a new Pokemon game would when it's released, in offering new Pokemon to catch, new areas to explore, new characters to meet, and of course, new Easter eggs and references to uncover. In today's video, we are going to be going over 10 really awesome Easter eggs and facts from the Isle of Armor expansion, most of which are so subtly hidden into the game itself that you quite possibly might have not even noticed a lot of them. There's a lot of really great stuff we're going to cover today, but before we get into it, I do need to give a quick spoiler warning because there are some things that could be considered light spoilers amongst all of these facts and trivia. With all that out of the way though, let's go ahead and check it out. This first one only occurs if you're playing Pokemon Shield, but it occurs right at the beginning of the expansion. Once you first arrive onto the Isle of Armor and defeat Avery in your initial battle with him, he will secretly lament the fact that you actually defeated him, but then tries to shrug it off and act like a tough guy, and utters the following quote, "Why, you made me use a whole 3% of my strength." If you've been keeping up with meme culture lately, this is very clearly a reference to the Shaggy meme that got very popular a little while ago, where false quotes from Shaggy are captioned onto memes where he says very much the same kind of thing about his strength and only having to use a small percentage of it. Moving on to our next point, we have one nice reference from one Pokemon game to another. Once you enter into the dojo itself and get to meet everybody for the first time, you'll be able to explore the dojo, and it acts as a house in addition to a battlefield and training ground for all of the students. Well, if you go into the living room area for Mustard and his family, you'll actually see Mustard playing on a Nintendo Switch, and the game he is playing is none other than Pokemon Quest, a game that was released back in 2018 for the Switch, providing a nice little nod to a fellow Pokemon title. This next one you could sort of call a reference, but for the most part, I just feel like it's a really cool little detail. Once you get the chance to finally choose between two of the three Kanto starter Pokemon, Bulbasaur and Squirtle, you might wonder why you can't pick from Charmander as well. Well, in terms of the gameplay, it would be because you already received a Charmander from Leon after completing the main Sword and Shield game, but lore-wise, it actually makes sense too, since Leon once trained under Mustard and therefore would have obviously been the one to pick Charmander, hence why it's not there for you to pick, and it also explains why Charmander is Leon's signature Pokemon. I just thought this was a really nice way of kind of explaining Leon's backstory a little bit and tying those two story elements together without really saying it at all, which is why I wanted to include it on the list. In the Isle of Armor expansion, as I mentioned earlier, there are a bunch of new returning Pokemon that you can catch in this new area, one of them being Kangaskhan. If you manage to catch a Kangaskhan yourself, its dex entry in Pokemon Shield will read the following. There are records of a lost human child being raised by a childless Kangaskhan. This is most likely a reference to one of the earliest episodes of the anime titled The Kangaskhan Kid, where we actually see a lost little boy named Tommy being raised by a Kangaskhan. Yet another Pokedex entry reference occurs with another Kanto Pokemon, this time being Tauros. If you manage to catch a Tauros in Pokemon Shield version, its Pokedex entry will say the following. The Tauros of the Galar region are volatile in nature, and they won't allow people to ride on their backs. This is obviously a reference to some of the more recent Pokemon games like Sun and Moon and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where you were actually able to ride a Tauros as part of the Pokemon riding mechanic for Let's Go, and as part of the Poke Ride function that replaced the HM system for Sun and Moon. This next one, if it is actually an Easter egg, is an extremely subtle one that I am even surprised I actually picked up on. During the process of finding Urshifu some honey so that it can eat the Max Soup and Gigantamax, you end up pursuing a Vespiquen, and once you eventually find one and shake it out of its tree, it goes into a rage, and right before it attacks you, it lets out a cry that when written as dialogue on the screen reads as, "Oh, beehive." Well, it's possible that this is a very subtle reference to Austin Powers of all things, because one of Austin Powers' more iconic lines in those movies is "Oh, behave," which is extremely similar to the cry uttered by Vespiquen, and considering that Austin Powers is a British character and we're in the Galar region, makes the possibility of this reference all the more likely. After you defeat Mustard for the final time in the Isle of Armor expansion when he is battling you at his full strength, he will give you his rare League card, and if you take a look at it, you will notice that his former jersey number when he was actually a part of the Galar League was 0. This is actually a reference to his former pupil Leon, who wears the jersey number 1, signifying how Mustard was the champion of the Galar region that came before him. And considering that these two are the only NPCs that don't use a 3-digit number for their jersey number, makes this connection between the two of them even more probable. One of the new Pokemon moves that was introduced in the Isle of Armor is known as Coaching. It is a fighting type move that when used, raises the user's stats, except it's not actually used by the Pokemon. Instead, according to the description of the move, it's actually used by the trainer itself. Now, admittedly, I have not gone through the entire catalog of Pokemon moves to verify that this is the case, so forgive me if I am wrong, but I am pretty sure that this is the very first Pokemon move that is actually used explicitly by the trainer rather than the Pokemon itself, which is really interesting and why I wanted to bring it up. Next up, we've got some cool name origins for some of the new characters introduced in the Isle of Armor. The resident family that runs the Isle of Armor Dojo consists of Mustard, his wife Honey, and their son Hyde. Well, all three of these characters have some pretty cool origins behind their name, as starting with Mustard, it's pretty plain to see that when paired with his wife Honey, the two make honey mustard, which is a classic condiment which shows their kind of bond with each other, much like the bond of Honey and Mustard to make honey mustard. Meanwhile, the origin of their son Hyde's name is actually way more interesting because it's actually way more symbolic of the Isle of Armor as a whole. According to Ancestry.com, Hyde is an Old English surname, so there's the British connection, that denotes a person who lived on a hide of land, as it was called at the time, with a hide of land being an area of land that is large enough to accommodate an extended family. And this origin actually fits Hyde's character perfectly, as his family owns the entire Isle of Armor, and they also house an extended family of sorts there, consisting of all of Mustard's students at the dojo, showing that his name actually has a lot of thought and care put into it. And last but not least, we actually have a pretty cool detail about Mustard's backstory. It's a pretty easy detail to miss if you don't look at League cards, but if you look at the description of Mustard's rare League card, it will actually tell you that Mustard was once, before he was champion, the fighting type gym leader of the Galar region. His League cards also mention a bunch of other interesting facts about him, most of which we went into detail on in my previous video, including the fact that he lost his partner Pokemon a while ago somehow, and the fact that the former chairman of the Galar League tried to get him to participate in a rigged championship match. The League cards can be a pretty easy thing to kind of gloss over and forget about, so if you're not one to really look into detail on them, hopefully you learned something new. And there we have it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment below, letting me know all your thoughts about all these facts and Easter eggs, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for way more Pokemon content. If you'd like to support this kind of content as well, you can check out my Pokemon remixes on Spotify, and give my Pokemon Cardinal project a watch if you haven't yet either, both of which are massively appreciated. I will be back with another video tomorrow, actually, most likely, for whatever that big announcement is that we're getting, but also for sure on Thursday as well, so be sure to hit the notification bell for those so you don't miss them when they go live. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you know I love you guys very much, and until those next videos, as always, I will smell you guys later.